I want to talk to you about is the fact that we live in the ordinary, the everyday, the simplicity, and the things that we do on a daily basis that carries us through our days. The simplicity is things like my pen, my glasses, a wooden wedge doorstop. I'll talk more about that a bit later on, though. Oftentimes people think of the extraordinary as the epic. Things that are life-altering. For example, for me, when I went to India in search of my roots with just a photograph and not much else, very little information, and realizing India is a very large country with a lot of people, and how I successfully found my roots. Now that's epic, and that's extraordinary. Or for how 11 years I played in an Irish military pipe band, and prior to it, never drummed, and for John, I'm not Irish. But I had the rhythm. Extraordinary. But I will also argue that the extraordinary is that, but it also comes out of the ordinary. When I talk about that, what I refer to is look at things in a different perspective. And I would say those are things like deciding to write a letter to somebody you haven't communicated with in a long time. And I said writing, not emailing. Putting it in an envelope, going to the post office, and mailing it off with a stamp. Or it could be where you put together an IKEA bookshelf without the use of instructions, and now you suddenly feel very empowered that you can set up your own home development and home renovation network because of that confidence you have. Understand that the extraordinary is a matter of perspective, and if it's meaningful to you, it's extraordinary. I'm going to give you an example. For me, years ago, I was in Tofino, and I went for a walk on the beach very early in the morning. And there was a single set of footprints in the sand. And as I was walking, and I saw these footprints, I wanted to know more about this. I plopped myself down rather than crossing, which most people would have done to walk to the waterfront. But I plopped myself down where these footprints were, and I needed to know more about this. Who do these footprints belong to? Where are they going? Where have they come from? What's this person's story? What are their trials and tribulations, joys and happiness? But a realization while I was sitting there that tomorrow, these footprints are gone. I needed to do something to create a lasting impression and not a footprint. So later on, I actually created an entire keynote speech on how do you leave a lasting impression and not just a footprint. And there were 4 elements that derived out of that to help me understand how to leave a lasting impression. The first one is the fact that it's about vision. We need to vision our future. We need to know where we're going. The second aspect is actually about choices, in that life is going to throw us choices. And if we don't make those decisions, society and people around us will make the decisions for us. The third element is about limitations. We are bound by limitations as long as we enter those words of shouldn't, won't, and can't. That will prevent us from where we need to go. The fourth one is on persistence. It's related to limitations. I am here today to tell you, each and every one of you, that if there is something you want to accomplish in life, you will accomplish it. You are on a crash course to do this until you throw a limitation up. It's not today, it's not tomorrow, it may not even be a year from now. There are things you need to do, but you will accomplish this if you are persistent. Those 4 elements came to me on how to leave a lasting impression and not a footprint. So if I can find the deep meaning from a simple set of footprints, the ordinary, and pulling something extraordinary, what can you do? I'm now going to talk about the doorstop, and don't worry, I will return this back in the office, especially now it's public. It was interesting because just recently, Because people have always said, you have this perception that you can find deep meaning in the simple. So I was walking in Burnaby to my office, from my car to the office, and as I was walking, I entered the building, and I suddenly saw the wooden wedge doorstop just to the side. And I suddenly started thinking, and now I'm standing there with the door open, but I'm looking at this wedge. And I'm sure the people around me are wondering, why is he in or is he out? We don't know. But an entire leadership concept came to me just by looking at this doorstop. And it percolated as I walked to my office. For me, I read a piece. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War centuries ago. Now, Sun Tzu was a military strategist and a general. And centuries ago, he wrote a manual for warfare. And in there, he wrote a piece that was really important for me. Now, what has a wedge got to do with a military manual written centuries ago? It's what he said. Sun Tzu said in one piece that really stuck with me, "A gentleman always keeps a sword by his side." What I interpreted from that was one thing. I don't have to be a leader 24/7. I only have to be a leader when it's required, and then I will jump in to do what is required, and then when the task is accomplished, I will pull back, and I don't need to be a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no different than this. It made me realize that this doorstop is very much like that, because what it does is it sits there until it's needed, and then it's wedged under the door, it does what it needs to do, and then it's gone, and it sits there until it's required again. Now you get two for the price of one, because the other thought that came to me was that when we often say opportunity knocks, you go through the door. Again, it's what keeps the door open for you. You need to find those wooden wedges in your life, but don't call them that, but that's what you need to find to help to keep those doors open for you so you can go through. Now, oftentimes people have said, it's great that you can find deep meaning and purpose, but how can I? And I sat down and I thought, how do I process it so I can make it so that it's transferable to others? Now, we've heard the term Carpe Diem. It's a great term. Seize the day or pluck this day if you take the literal translation. And I think it's how I lead my life. But the way I want you to remember this is take the first 5 letters of Carpe, C-A-R-P-E. It's all you need to do to really do what I do. And it's a process that I follow. The C is a curiosity. I go through life with a curious nature. And what I find is my radar is always on. So that doorstop jumps out at me. Or any number of small things in my life, the footprints in the sand. It's that curious nature. Tell me more about this. The A is the appreciation I have for things, of the things around me, the appreciation. And it's not just the things around me, but it's the situations, and most importantly, the people around me, of which many of you are in the room here today. It's the appreciation that really percolates it even more. The R is reflection, because that's where the maturation happens, where you suddenly start thinking deeper about, but what does this really mean? And finding and pulling the purpose that's going to tell you more about this. The P is perspective. We all bring perspectives and perceptions forward. It's who we are and what we are, and it's through your experiences that you suddenly are able to pull the C-A-R forward into this because of your perceptions. And then finally, the E is a combination of all of those 4 letters into the last, which is experience. You have to make it into an experience. Otherwise, it just dies an untimely death. So that's how I would say Carpe Diem is a great way to remember what I do, and that if you start invoking that into your life, the C-A-R-P-E, it will be an amazing opportunity for you to start looking at the world through the eyes that I do. But I also find sometimes with a lot of these students and the people that I interact with is a feeling and a sense of either the ordinary or the insignificance. How can I possibly make a difference? And I'm here to tell you in a huge way that you make a resounding difference. My last story is how you change the world. I had a vision when I was young in high school that I was going to change the world. Don't know how, Don't know when, but I was going to change the world. And the older I became, the smaller that vision became, to where it almost disappeared. I was disappointed. Years later, I went forward and I did a leadership program. And it was a great experience, and as I went through it, I sat next to this one fellow who was an executive director for a not-for-profit. And he was telling me how they had an organization to help people off income assistance. They offered a hand up, not a handout. And he said, none of these people are working. We need you or somebody to come in and do resumes and interview workshops for our clients. So I said, sure. And over the years, I did 100 resumes for their clients. But number 8 and number 9 stand out solidly for me. Most times I would get serviettes with the information scratched on there of the resume or post-it notes. But if I'm doing your resume, I need to meet with you. I need to know who you are. When I met them, the husband and wife, they told me how their world had collapsed. Neither of them were working, and they really felt down and out. And they said, our 10-year-old daughter, we live in a single small bachelor unit, and she has to sleep on the floor. We can't provide. So I helped them. I said, we'll see what we can do. Now the thing is, fast forward 5 or 6 years later, never saw them again until that time. And all of a sudden, I see this person when I was in this building, and he comes running up to me, and I suddenly realize it's the same person. And he said, I'm so sorry, I should have told you what happened. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, after you left, we both realized nobody is here to rescue us. We were expecting somebody to save us, but you told us or showed us that no, we have to do this and look for the people to help us. And it was great because it's what he said that was most profound for me, because he said things have changed. Our lives have come back together, and our world has come back together. My daughter is doing well. We've moved. She's got her own room, tons of friends, and I feel like I can provide. Our world has come back together. And I suddenly realized I'm doing this all wrong. I'm trying to change the world through my eyes, but I realized all I need to do is through my actions, through what I do on a daily basis, the extraordinary and the ordinary, is to help other people, because through his eyes, the world is now different. So as a result, you've actually changed the world through that interaction. But I look at this audience and all of the people who may be watching this and say, you have the capacity and have already changed the world and may not even realize it. It's the extraordinary and the ordinary. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, and those of you who know me know what's coming up here. It's my signature tagline. Yeah, you all know. You're all nodding, going, okay. It's what I've always told everybody I ever interact with. Everyone's life is an autobiography, but you have to make yours worth reading. It's such an important piece because we are all writing an autobiography, and oftentimes when we don't feel significant or we feel that, I'm the ordinary, I am here to tell you that as I look out into this audience and all the familiar faces that I know, you are nothing but extraordinary to me. And to me, I see all of these amazing stories that you inspire me when I stand up here. Because it's your stories that I share with everybody around me. All I ask is you go forward, build amazing stories, change amazing lives, look at it as an extraordinary out of the ordinary, and you will be amazed at what you will be able to accomplish. Thank you.